Hello, this is KYC News. We have provided you with relevant and reliable information for the day. First and foremost, we wish him good health and heartfelt desire. How often have you heard of someone going from billions to rags? Anil Ambani experienced this. From a $7 billion debt to the world's most expensive sibling feud. One man's $42 billion fall. What happened to Anil Ambani? To understand, let's visit mid-20th century India. Anil was born on June 4, 1959, in Mumbai, then Bombay. Dhirubhai Ambani's youngest son. For 17, Dhirubhai moved from India to Aden, Yemen, to work at Bess & Company. He learned trade, accounting, and entrepreneurship there. Dhirubhai returned to India in 1958 and started trading spices, which became Reliance Commercial Corporation. After having Mukesh on April 19, 1957, Dhirubhai and Kokilaban welcomed Anil in India. Young Ambanis lived in a two-bedroom apartment in Mumbai's Jai Hind estate. Dhirubhai's business improved. He ventured into textiles and offered high-quality products at lower prices than his competitors. This risky method, which relied on high-volume sales to be viable, grew business swiftly. Dhirubhai moved the Ambanis into a 6-story Mumbai residence. Dhirubhai's poor beginnings led him to plan incentive-based family vacations for his sons. Anil said that he and his brother would run 6-mile routes in the pouring rain for a carton of mangoes as a reward for their hard effort. We'll soon learn if Dhirubhai's sons were inspired to be business savvy. Reliance expanded into petrochemicals in the 1980s. Reliance went from a single Mumbai office to $122 million by 1983. Dhirubhai bought a 14-story high-rise in Mumbai's Cuff Parade commercial neighborhood as his family's official home. Both Anil and Mukesh joined the family business around their mid-20s. Mukesh joined Reliance in 1981 as a hands-on facilities manager, and Anil in 1983 as an investor and press relations executive. Each man's role was ideal. Mukesh was a low-key, focused businessman who preferred spending evenings with his wife and children. Anil enjoyed jogging with Mumbai's elite crowd, socializing with socialites and Bollywood stars, and developed a reputation as a playboy. While Mukesh avoided the spotlight, Anil enjoyed it, but his love of stardom caused problems. Civil war among Ambanis. Anil adored associating with Bollywood Hall of Fame members to establish business contacts, but he also dated actress Tina Munam. Anil's family wasn't blind to Tina's occupation, despite the saying. At the time, Anil and Tina were encouraged to discontinue acting because they were from a conventional home. Anil's parents grudgingly gave their consent, and the couple married in February 1991. Anil thought this was his last significant family feud, but he was wrong. By 2002, Reliance had evolved into a $15 billion corporation, but calamity was coming. Dhirubhai Ambani died of a heart attack at 69 in 1997. Dhirubhai was the 138th richest man in the world when he died, with $2.9 billion. The Indian Parliament had tight inheritance restrictions at the time, therefore the Ambanis followed the Hindu Succession Act. Under the Hindu Succession Act, a man's unwilled property must be distributed amongst his widow and children. Ambani's major concern was running Reliance. Mukesh is the family business's chairman and Anil is vice chairman. This may seem like a natural solution to the succession dilemma, but the two brothers were very different, and fissures soon appeared. As the eldest, Mukesh considered himself as the sole leader, but Anil saw them as equal. Each brother made crucial company decisions without consulting the other. Reliance's influence in India's economy had become so vital that something had to be done. Even India's finance minister sought to stop the fighting, but to no avail. Kokilaban Ambani was the best person to end the most expensive sibling rivalry ever. Kokilaban tried to reason with her sons, but neither would budge on the subject of who would run the Reliance empire. Kokilaban eventually settled the boys' dispute. Reliance was divided. Mukesh and Anil own half. Keeping Reliance as a multi-industry corporation was something the brothers could agree on. Mukesh took on Reliance Industries and Reliance Petrochemicals, which sold gas. Anil intended to take on newer, flashier enterprises like Reliance Communications and Reliance Power. The split featured a 10-year sibling ceasefire in which neither brother could compete with the other's firm. It included right of first refusal. In the instance of selling business shares, this allowed either side to buy out the other first. The truce sounded like a good idea, but it led to some of the brothers' toughest issues. In December 2005, India's Supreme Court accepted Reliance's separation after 3 years of negotiations. The brothers each rebranded their respective parts of the corporation. Mukesh named his company Reliance Industries Limited and Anil's Reliance Anil Dhirubhai Ambani Group. By 2006, each was established in as CEO of one of India's largest companies. While they lived under one roof at the Ambani family home, they were worlds apart. Both wanted to be the richest Ambani. Golden Age. Anil's solo career began well. His first large endeavor was in telecoms, where he revolutionized the sector with Reliance Communications. Anil invested $2 billion in 3G wireless signal technologies to keep up with telecom's breakthroughs. In the late 2000s, 3G was cutting-edge technology, and Reliance Communications became India's top mobile operator. Anil didn't savor his victory and moved on. Anil bought AdLabs Films and their movie theater business in 2005, rebranding it Reliance MediaWorks. By 2008, Anil owned India's largest multiplex with 700 screens. Anil inked a $1.2 billion contract with Steven Spielberg to support DreamWorks in 2008. Anil benefited from DreamWorks' Warhorse, Lincoln, and Bridge of Spies. Reliance MediaWorks funded 11 Oscar-nominated films in 2012, including The Help. Anil hosted exclusive screenings of his Hollywood hits at his house for Mumbai's elite. Mukesh excluded. 2008 was Anil's heyday. His IPO of Reliance Power shares made Indian stock market history. In 60 seconds, 10.6 times the available shares were bought for $3 billion. Anil was listed as the 6th richest man in the world on Forbes' 2008 list of billionaires, but it wasn't enough. Anil still felt in the shadow of his older brother, who was $1 billion richer and ranked 5th. Anil didn't realize his desire would bring him down. Telephone issues. Anil's issues began when he realized his cell company Reliance Communications required more revenue to succeed. Anil took out enormous sums to support Reliance Communications' ambitious expansion aspirations and keep up with technology. Anil's $2 billion investment in 3G accounted for 50% of Reliance Communications' debt. Reliance Communications and MTN were in talks to merge into one major mobile firm at the time. This was supposed to create a $70 billion telecoms corporation spanning India and South Africa, however it collapsed due to a member of Anil's familial clan. Remember the brothers' 2005 RFR? Mukesh got preferential claims on Reliance Communications shares in a sale or merger. This generated a legal difficulty that prevented MTN from closing the acquisition in July 2008. Anil's debt reduction ambitions were crushed. In April 2011, Anil's managing director and 2 vice presidents were detained on accusations of scheming to purchase mispriced mobile network licenses for Reliance Communications invested companies to artificially boost share prices. In a sea of debt and scandal, Anil's only option was to borrow more money to repay his debts. In 2012, Anil borrowed from the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, China Development Bank, and Exim Bank of China. Anil got $1.2 billion from 3 banks to repay Reliance Communications' $7.19 billion debt by 2011. The situation was bad, but it would grow worse. Brotherly treachery. Anil borrowed $922 million from Exim Bank in 2010 to develop a 780 megawatts power plant. Mukesh promised to sell Anil's companies the gas needed to build and fuel the endeavor for half the government price as a family arrangement. When construction began, the government refused to approve the brothers' deal because gas prices must remain fixed to be fair to the economy. This verdict would treble Mukesh's gas revenues from the power plant construction, to Anil's detriment. Anil openly asserted in the late 2000s that Mukesh was attempting every trick in the book to get out of his contractual duties. When the court ruled in Mukesh's favor, many of Anil's companies plummeted in value on the stock exchange. After the lengthy case, the brothers agreed to scrap the 2005 non-compete agreement their mother negotiated. Mukesh agreed not to enter the gas-based electricity production market until 2022, but the brothers were free to compete in all other industries. Mukesh wanted one of Anil's businesses. Plans. Connection lost. While his brother sank, Mukesh's fortunes improved. Mukesh moved to Mumbai in 2012, and it's a paradise. This mansion is one of the world's largest and most elaborate. 568 feet tall, 27 stories, 4 years, $1.2 billion. Anil felt like Mukesh was rubbing his face in Mukesh's wealth by building such a lavish home. Dubbed Antilia, this towering mansion sits beyond opulent and includes a 6-story 168-car garage / 9 ornately decorated elevators. Antilia even has its very own private 50-seat movie theater, although it looked like watching drama son, the big screen just wasn't enough. Mukesh was about to put on a real-life show soft brotherly betrayal. In September 2016, 6 years after the new agreement that permitted the brothers to compete, Mukesh joined the communications industry with a bang Sand launched his own mobile network called Jio. Jio quickly picked up more than 150 million customers after delivering low-cost 4G mobile coverage, leaving other significant players in the market rushing to stay up. Jio changed the face of the Indian telecom industry, and Anil's Reliance Communications couldn't afford to keep up, given their colossal debts. Once the largest mobile company in India, Anil's telecom company unbelievably lost over 98% of its value over a 3-year period. It's unclear what exactly Mukesh's motives were for moving in on his younger brother's industry like this, but Jio's success was making yet another one of the holes that were continuing to grow in Anil's pockets. Hero to zero. In the aftermath of Mukesh's success in the telecoms market, Anil landed in even more trouble. He was hit with a lawsuit from former partner and Swedish network company Ericsson in 2016 when he couldn't keep up with debt repayments for the $80 million he owed them, and was ordered by the Indian Supreme Court to pay up with interest or go to jail. With just days to go before the deadline, help arrived from an unexpected source. Straining to find a way to keep the Ambani name far away from any association with financial ruin, Mukesh knew he had to do something and swooped in with the cash needed to save Anil from going fully under. While this might seem like an act of brotherly love, being bailed out by his brother like this would have been the peak of humiliation for Anil, given their financial feud. After the Ericsson fiasco, Anil knew that his days in the telecom sector were numbered, and in February 2019, Reliance Communications finally filed for bankruptcy. As if things couldn't get any worse, there were more lenders out there that were on Anil's trail. Anyone that wanted a piece of Anil's dwindling fortune would have to get in line, as he was being pursued by dozens of creditors in the latter half of the 2010s. The most significant were the 3 Chinese banks who Anil still hadn't repaid, who brought a case against him in 2019 with claims that he had provided a personal guarantee that they would be reimbursed. 7 years after Anil had borrowed that $1.2 billion, he'd only managed to repay a small fraction, and the banks were in hot pursuit for the remaining $717 million. With the seemingly never-ending sea of debts rising above his head, Anil Ambani finally reached a place that just 10 years earlier would have seemed impossible. On February 7, 2020, to /the of onlookers, Sunil made the startling claim that the sparkling net worth soft $42 billion he'd possessed in 2008 had suddenly plummeted sto 0, zip, zilch, nada. On top of his ongoing battle with his brother and his tarnished business management record, Anil had seemingly gone from hero to zero. Anil claimed to have nothing and filed for bankruptcy, yet he still had a beautiful mansion, private jet, $3 million fleet of automobiles, and a multi-million-dollar yacht. Anil denied owning a luxury yacht and said it was owned by a firm, not him. That didn't count his other extremely valuable possessions. Anil's wallet and bank balance appeared empty, although he had many non-liquid assets. In terms of ownership, liquid assets can be immediately transformed into cash, like money in a savings account, while a non-liquid item requires selling, which may take time and value. When a defendant must pay a lot of money, the court typically orders them to use non-liquid assets. Anil claimed he sold his jewelry to pay for legal bills, but he didn't have to sell his $3 million automobiles or opulent mansion since his lawyers said he didn't own them. In 2021, reports appeared that Anil had hidden millions of dollars overseas, so his purportedly empty pockets certainly have depths. During the case against Chinese banks, the judge argued that Anil might have gotten more money from his brother. Anil said his father's bailout was a one-time thing. Fortunes. The Ambani brothers' paths diverged with time. Mukesh Reliance Industries Limited, worth $217 billion, rated 155th on the Fortune 500 list in 2021. Anil's brother Mukesh continues to make waves in business, making friends with Mark Zuckerberg, who agreed to buy 10% of Jio in 2020. Mukesh is India's richest man, worth $92.7 billion in 2022. I know who I'd pick as my Ambani family office secret Santa. Anil has taken a more discreet approach, working behind the scenes to save his enterprises and boost his net worth. Anil rises at 5 a.m. 6 days a week. You've got to give him credit for attempting to recoup what he's lost, even if he's murky about his finances. Anil's narrative is a reverse of his father's, wealth to poverty. Anil was once considered as a financial genius, but lawsuits and scandals have tarnished his reputation. Mukesh's cautious, meticulously strategized, sustainable growth method trumped Anil's rapid money-making endeavors, according to some. Anil's desire to distinguish himself from his brother and grab the Ambani crown may have been the final straw. Who knows how far the already successful Reliance Corporation could have gone if Mukesh and Anil had put aside their egos and worked together. Undoubtedly. If you're filthy rich, make sure your family is too. Anil's ascent and collapse. How about a billionaire? As always, thanks for watching.